I shared with you last year that I bought a brand new 2024 Kia Sonet not through a car loan but by liquidating a portion of my investments. Now, I was keen on not availing of a car loan simply because I found the interest rates too high, and since I've had a portfolio of investments throughout the years in stocks and equities, bond funds, and even crypto, I decided to liquidate a portion of this so that I can avail of a brand new car interest-free. Now, in that time, Bitcoin and crypto, as well as the S&P 500, have actually reached all-time highs. So now I'm wondering, did I make the right decision? Have I actually lost a significant portion of gains? I'm wondering, would I have been better off just availing of a car loan instead? This is what we'll look to cover in this video. Was it worthwhile that I liquidated my investments? If you're curious, stick around and let's find out. Let's go! But before anything, if you are new to this channel, hi, I'm Mark. It's nice to meet you. In this channel, I talk a little bit about lifestyle, but I mostly talk about business and investments. So yes, last year in June 2024, I bought myself a brand new Kia Sonet in its 1.5 LX manual variant. So this is actually the cheapest Kia Sonet out there. It was selling at 758,000 pesos. So this was actually a good bargain. And again, because of my investments in stocks and equities, bond funds, and cryptocurrency, the 758,000 pesos that I paid only cost me 555,000 pesos, or about 64% of the total retail price. So if you're curious about how I actually got those gains and how long I was invested in them, you can check out that older video. So those gains have been locked in and liquidated. That's not really the main objective of this video. We already know that I made some good gains. What we're exploring in this video is, were those decisions actually correct? Because again, cryptocurrency and the S&P 500 have actually been performing at all-time highs, and I've actually lost on some of those potential gains. So let's now go to each and every investment and what they're worth right now for us to see, have I actually missed out quite a bit? So let's start off with the largest position that I liquidated. I sold about 250,000 pesos of my investments in the ALFM Peso Bond Fund. And looking at what it was trading for in June 2024 versus September 2025, the value of the ALFM Peso Bond Fund then was just below 395 pesos. Comparing it now to its value in September 2025, its value is at 415 pesos and 54 centavos. So this is actually a gain of 5.39%. Had I kept my money in the ALFM Peso Bond Fund, my 251,000 pesos then would be worth 265,000 pesos right now. Not too much here since this is just a bond fund. This modest gain of 5% is just as expected. Let's move on to the second fund. This is again another conservative fund. In June last year, I liquidated 133,000 pesos from my positions in the ALFM Money Market Fund. Now looking at the ALFM website, it was trading at 139 pesos in June 2024. Fast forward to now again in September 2025, it's trading at 147 pesos and 9 centavos. So this is a slightly higher gain of 5.82%. So my positions here last year at 133,000 pesos would be now over 140,000 pesos. So again, these are modest and expected gains. Not yet anything that I feel too bad about. Let's move on to the third. So the third investment fund that I liquidated is the BPI European Equity Feeder Fund. The amount that I liquidated here is a little over 58,000 pesos. In June 2024, this was trading at 173.46. And now in September 2025, it's trading at 230.42. The BPI European Equity Feeder Fund actually has gains of nearly 33%. This equities fund really rallied in the last 1 year. I actually made a separate video on this. If you're curious about the BPI European Equity Feeder Fund, feel free to check that out in the links down below. Had I kept it in my portfolio, that 58,000 pesos would be worth over 78,000 pesos right now. So those are gains of 20,000 pesos that unfortunately I let go when I liquidated my position. Now let's move on to the next investment fund. This time it's a local balanced fund that is tracking local bonds and local equities. So this is the ALFM Growth Fund. It was previously trading at 213, and more than a year later, it's pretty much back to the same volume at 212. So this one is actually a loss. It's a negative 0.84%. So my 30,000 last year is just under 30,000 this year at 29,962. So this one, nothing to feel bad about because it actually didn't gain. So if you go back to that older video, this one was already at a loss for so many years. Again, that's why I'm not too keen, I guess, on the local market. I mean, I've had this for over 8 years now, still no gain. So from the positions that I liquidated, this is the one that actually doesn't feel too bad. So let's move on to the fifth investment on this list. This one is a local stock. And as much as I don't have a lot of good experiences with local stocks, because this is a stock that I sold in 2023, this is the stock of Metro Pacific Investments. And if you remember, in 2023, they actually had a voluntary delisting. They actually had a buyback program. Since they have been delisted, this stock has not appreciated. Well, in the sense that they are delisted, so we really wouldn't know its value right now. So this one, no gains, also breaking even. So this is my stock of MPI. So let's now move on to the last part, perhaps the most interesting or the most disheartening to an extent. I liquidated my positions in Bitcoin. Again, not all of it, but a portion of it, as I was able to buy into some Bitcoin, just very small Satoshis in 2017. Of course, this has had a lot of gains in the last 7 to 8 years. So last year, when I liquidated over 153,000 pesos of my Bitcoin, it was trading at just a little over 4 million pesos in June 2024. As of September 28, 2025, Bitcoin is trading at 6.4 million pesos. So since selling it, it's actually appreciated by nearly 60%. So what I liquidated then at 153,000 pesos would actually be worth nearly 245,000 pesos right now. So I've missed out on nearly 90,000 pesos that I could have had that would be still part of my position if I had not liquidated it. I also shared with you that I put in over 83,000 pesos of cash that I had on hand. So as cash, I'm just pegging it at the same value. That might be up for some debate based on inflation, but in terms of its actual value, not factoring in inflation, the cash that I put in of 83,000 pesos would of course be the same amount now of 83,000 pesos as well. So again, putting all that together, what I paid last year as 758,000 pesos would be worth 889,000 pesos right now. That is a gain of 17% from last year. Unfortunately, that 17% is the opportunity cost that I've lost because I liquidated these investments. Let's now move on to the second part of this video where I am actually comparing the potential gains that I could have earned versus the bank interest that I could have just paid in terms of the car loan that I could have just availed. So I actually used the BPI website, the car loan calculator that they have. I'm looking at the computation of a car loan in 12, 24, and 36 months just to see the different options that we have. What I input here was the lowest down payment that I could have put in at 15%, while having the rest, the 85%, financed by BPI through their car loan offer. That is a down payment of 113,700 pesos. So if I availed of the loan to have the 85% financed over the course of just 1 year, I would have paid 56,452 pesos in the last 12 months, meaning that the total of my down payment of 113,000 pesos with this financing of 667,000 pesos, what I would have paid in total is 791,124 pesos, meaning that percentage-wise, I would have just paid an extra 4.37% had I availed of a car loan over 12 months. Let's move on to the second instance here. Again, still at a 15% down payment, but this time over the course of 24 months or 2 years, I would have paid 29,802 pesos. So that amortization over the course of 2 years would come out to 715,248 pesos. So that would be a total of 828,948 pesos. In terms of interest versus 758,000 pesos, this is just 9.36%. So moving on to our third scenario, availing of a loan over the course of 36 months or a 3-year period, we would pay 20,998 pesos each month over the course of 36 months. That brings the total of what we'd spend to 869,728 pesos. So the total interest that we would have paid is 14.73%. So looking at these three scenarios, it actually still comes out lower in terms of interest versus what I would have gained had I stayed invested in the market. Again, looking at my potential gains, what I would have earned had I not touched my investments, my positions, my 758,000 pesos would actually be 889,000 pesos right now, a 17% gain in the 1 year. While again, if I had just availed of a car loan, my total spending would be 869,628 pesos. So did I make the wrong decision by liquidating my Bitcoin, my bond funds, my stocks? Well, to put simply, if we were looking at these numbers, it would seem like a yes. But of course, there are so many variables that we need to factor in. I mean, right now, it's easy to say this simply because we see the gains in Bitcoin and the S&P 500 are near their all-time highs. Maybe they're on the way down already. But as of this moment, this certain phase, this era, they are near their all-time highs, and it's easy for me to regret and say, I shouldn't have done that. But again, there's really no way for us to accurately tell if markets are moving up or down. It could be easily seen next year, a few months from now, that I made the right decisions, that Bitcoin is trading much lower. But again, at this very moment, if I had waited to liquidate my position, then I would still come out with higher gains. So do I regret it? I don't think so. I mean, I wanted to purchase my car to be free of debt, free and clear. I have no monthly payments that I need to keep up with or worry about. So peace of mind is definitely something that I bought when I liquidated these investments. But of course, there is also FOMO. I can't tell you that I'm completely immune from that. But yes, as I said in my previous video, and always throughout this channel, when you do your exits, when you exit your position, be happy with how you've exited. Especially if you're coming out on top with some gains, there will always be gains that you might have to forego. There are also losses that you might have to forego. So you never really know. You have to live with your decision and be happy with it regardless. I'm sharing this with you not to rant, but to really show you the realities of how the investment game is played. So what are the learnings that we can take away from this? Personally, I've always talked about not wanting to avail of a car loan, not wanting to pay interest. But I guess that's a situation if you are only working with cash. When you're actually working with investments and looking at opportunity costs, what you actually lose in gains in your investments can offset your bank interest, and one can actually beat the other. Of course, that's very hard to do consistently, but I guess the real moral lesson here is putting your money in investments because they can really help you come out on top. Hanging on to cash, you lose value with cash. Having a portfolio, a mix of aggressive funds and some conservative funds, just to balance out your risk appetite. It's actually very important to be invested in different channels, different instruments. Another thing that we can take away is that, unfortunately, as mentioned earlier, my investments in the Philippine stock market, my LFM growth fund really has not had any gain in nearly a decade. This is not to hate the Philippine market, but just really showing you the data that I have in terms of my investments. This investment itself has a lot of lost opportunities. If I had placed it in, let's say, Bitcoin or global markets, the S&P 500, it would have had better gains. But yeah, I mean, that's just part of your portfolio as well. You will have some laggards, you will have your non-performers. That's why it's always good to be spread out in different areas, different types of volatility. And this right balance is something for you to figure out according to what your investment goals are. I'm thinking that I shouldn't have been too black or white about not wanting to avail of a car loan. I think the best case scenario would have been probably financing 40 to 50% of the purchase. I mean, my computations here are having financed 85% of the total purchase. If I had lowered this to maybe 50-40%, I think it would have come out better for me. So definitely right now, I've lost a lot of potential gains that I could have gained in Bitcoin. I think a safer, sounder approach to this would have been to purchase, again, 50% outright and have the rest financed, and the losses that I would have had in those potential gains, especially in Bitcoin, I could have secured. So So that's about it, guys. I just wanted to share this with you here. A lot of this I'm doing out of my curiosity, out of my experiments also, just for you to understand the type of implications that happen when you are liquidating your investments. But also, I don't want you guys to fall in love too hard with your gains. Again, your gains can also be wiped out at any moment. So a good balance, a good exit strategy should always be in place. I think that's why I was also looking to do this, looking to exit some of them. I mean, as I said, a lot of these investments were already over the course of 7 to 8 years. So I felt that a lot of the positions I could already lock in and just enjoy. Maybe I'll do an update video again on this next year. Perhaps the markets would have changed then. Will the global markets still be up? Perhaps the Philippine markets will be going up. You win some, you lose some. Again, at the end of the day, you just have to be happy with what you end up with and apply continuous learning, continuous changes, tweaks that you can do in the future so that you are always learning and coming out on top better. So what do you think about all this? What do you think about the positions that I liquidated? If you were in my position, do you regret missing out on those gains? Or are you happy with just being able to, again, not have to worry about bank interest? Definitely, I am happy about that. Soon too, I'll be doing an update video on my Kia Sonet and how it's performing in the last year and a half. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, guys, and happy investing.